So this, when we speak of rasa, everything is embedded with rasa. And our job is to taste that rasa, which is present there, to taste that. For example, there is this Japanese term which actually came into use not that long ago, at the beginning of the 20th century, and now firmly entered many languages without being even translated or even given a footnote. Umami. Umami. It's in relation first to the taste of food and later adopted by tea industry as well, by tea cultivators of tea. I always thought that it actually has always had it links to the tea culture, but it's not so. The term umami was coined out by someone who was in food, and I forgot his name, in Japan. And there is all that, again, what umami is, and in relation to the tongue. So it's quite just like interesting thing to share, that umami is a taste which is combined of the mixture of the tastes where the three predominant ones blend in. You see? And that is considered to be having umami, distinctive umami. And certain condiments used in food enhances the quality of that, taste of that food by bringing forth umami. For example, soy sauce, right? There are like Parmesan cheese, yes, I shared that. Remember that? Yeah, Parmesan cheese on pasta. It just brings everything together. Lunch is soon. So that's a very helpful additional understanding that umami here, the concept of umami. So when something has umami, and particularly when tea has umami, it means it's a successful batch, a successful year. So now back to rasas, we have now approaching lunchtime. We will just write them down, only to come back to this later, okay? So we have now 8 classical rasas, as have been expounded by Bharata Muni in his Natya Shastra, so as to define each rasa, what it stands for literally and above all else. Oh, I just remembered why Nietzsche was brought in. Because I told you it will come. It's still there. It's still there. Because in The Birth of Tragedy, Nietzsche beautifully points out to the origin of all arts in the West as taken from the birth of theater. It is the birth of theater. It is in that what was performed under the open skies, where the arts are given birth in the cradle of Western European civilization. Likewise, or maybe as a prototype, that happened some millennia earlier in India. All performances were taking place under the open sky. Theater meant to be performed outdoors, and it meant to be a show. So that's what the noble goal of the Natya Shastra was. It's the origin of the drama, and the drama then gives birth to all other arts as they begin to get momentum of their own. So the Nietzsche pointed that out in The Birth of Tragedy, in that little volume which he dedicated to, by the way, Richard Wagner, and fell out of him immediately because the old composer would not have it. he would not have such an audacious attempt at destroying everything Wagner worked all his life. Well, that's the story. It's not making it up, right? You know that? Well, also traditionalists also stood on very much that Western civilization is the best, that everything, that there's a continuity and it only gets better in structure and everything. He could not take that, what Nietzsche proposed, that the force, very powerful force, was driven underground. That what Dionysus represents, we sooner or later will begin to pay a heavy price, which we're doing now. It's very clear. So, these 8 classically spoken rasas now are, and I will give them in Sanskrit with immediate equivalent in English. There are 8: Srinagara, Hasyam, Rudram, Karuna, Bibhatsa, Bhyanak, Vira, Adbhuta. So we'll start again. Srinagara, it's the rasa of love. Srinagara, rasa of love, romance, loving, erotic qualities it invokes. Srinagara. S-R-N-G-A-R. No, but there are different transliterations, don't worry. There are, like, you can look. Yeah. Some of them abbreviate the A at the end. I will show it to you. Just trust me. I really pay attention to write. Because, for example, the other ones also come in certain... It's a separate topic. Why are they even listed in a certain order? And also slightly transliterated differently. So Srinagara, or Srinagaram sometimes, or simply Srinagar. It's erotic, loving, romance invoking, the essence of love, what brings the quality of love, direct experience. Second one, Hasyam. Hasyam. Humorous, comic. Rudram. Rudram. Furious, which gives rise to rage, anger. The fourth one, Karuna, or Karunam, sometimes it's spelled, pronounced. Invoking pathos, compassion, pity. Bibhatsa, Bibhatsa, Bibhatsa. That's the fifth. That which brings aversion, odious. Bhayanak, 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 terrifying, fear-invoking, brings anxiety. And the seventh one, Vira, sometimes spelled as V-I-R-A, transliterated in English, or as V-E-E-R-A, Vira, Vira, heroic, valor, fearlessness. Finally, Adbhuta, Adbhuta, Bhutta. Adbhuta, that which invokes wonder, amazement. Adbhuta, wonder, amazement. Marvel. We'll speak more about it because it's a very important in terms of the, even as a goal of spiritual realization, the place of wonder stands alone there. So these are classically spoken 8 rasas. At the Good Sanster, we gave a full table of how each one is then corresponds to color, a deity, and the invoking feeling. But we're not going to go there now. It can easily be shared with the participants here from what was done there, because I want it to keep it simpler, with a lighter touch, so as because we will instead introduce other aspects which haven't been introduced at the Good Sanster. So now, these 8 rasas, full picture, these are the basics of drama. At the basis of all work of art, there is an invocation of one of these emotions. It's to invoke one of these rasas. Sometimes a combination. We will also speak how some rasas follow each other, how rasa gives rise to what is known as a feeling, bhava, the intimacy between rasa and bhava. Very important, because then you will understand, when you will take it outside of the domain of aesthetics and theater, arts, creation or enjoying, this is applicable to how we experience life as we go through it, our relationships, encounters, and why, when we when we experienced this, it ended up with tasting this now. Because there's a correlation. It's not random. Unless something is disturbed in our psyche, there is this almost a logical unfoldment of how rasa translates into bhava. But what now I'd like to conclude this exposition on the rasas is that it would have forever remained the domain of the art making, the aestheticians, artists, directors. But Abhinavagupta, whom we're now mentioning very often, produced a glossary over Natya Shastra. And that work served to make important adjustments at the grand cultural level. He suggested to introduce an additional 9th rasa, known as Shanta rasa. It's the flavor of peace, tranquility, equilibrium. And he argued that it is the Shanta rasa that is at the base of each of these rasas. And it is the Shanta rasa that is simultaneously the very purpose of why we go through a variety of these experiences, emotional in nature, so as to fall back onto that what gave rise to all these colors of the spectrum. You see? This is a beautiful, beautiful view here. Remember that? Right? Incomprehensible, right? That the stage, the unfoldment, all that dynamic relationship here. The dynamic relationship between seer, seeing and seen, subject, experiencing object. What is, I feel, indispensable in this understanding is that every experience has this component. It has this subject recognizing itself in the object of its experience, whatever that happens to be, in whatever domain of that wherever experience took place. It then, as soon as it recognizes itself, falls back onto itself. So this is how Abhinavagupta make a significant cultural adjustment to the Natya Shastra and the purpose of arts. So the arts now become in service of that same noble goal within the scope of Indian culture, where God is all there is. So Shanta rasa here is that what illumines the rasas as the white light that illumines all, which is basically essential constituency of all the colors. Colors are produced through a phenomenon of breaking down as they refract at the surface of a certain structure, as in the, let's say, crystal. They are nevertheless all retain the property of light. So whether this is violet, purple, green, yellow, blue, or red, infrared, the essence of that light, the essence of that color is nothing but light. It's simple. Simple. You're probably getting hungry and a little bit puzzled. Why am I speaking with such Isn't it simple? Right? So every color is still, in essence, light. So every experience, in essence, is that, light. So when that experience takes place, it falls back onto the light. This is the meaning of Shanta rasa, the flavor of peace. This is the understanding. So everything that we experience here is ultimately for the sake of tasting the flavor of peace.